So you have Trump out of office. You've got Biden in there. Let's do the first 100 days will be, oh, how refreshing it is. We now have a real president there, and they'll fluff everything up. And then what?
I have a feeling on this show we're going to be like, day 2, Joe Biden has bombed 17 kids again. And then the media is going to be like, shh.
If we could even find out about it because of all the censors of all the legitimate news organizations that actually do talk about American foreign policy. If you remember, during the presidential debates, this wasn't even a topic of debate. This wasn't even a topic of discussion.
Well, they canceled the second one, to be fair.
So we might not even know what's happening outside because of all the communications lines being controlled and being censored. But what I think is going to happen is going to be very fascinating because these organizations, these groups, these larger ideologies are predicated on attacking, on going after and being offensive instead of defensive. So I truly do believe that after the first 100 days after Trump, they're going to start eating their own. They're going to start attacking each other, tearing each other to shreds, because all that's left is them. And they're going to find some kind of microaggression. They're going to find some kind of privilege. They're going to find something to eat each other apart because there's no one else to hit.
Well, so they're already starting to go after Fox. And so my assumption is they're going to continue to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, I think. At some point, so CNN brands themselves now, they're just the anti-Trump network. That's what they do, which is what MSNBC is supposed to do. And MSNBC is at least honest about their brand. They're leaning forward, and CNN was lying. But now they're in direct competition with a Democratic House, Senate, and White House. So they're going to have to go after each other. You can go after Fox all you want. It's not going to work.
But I hear they want that, was it AT&T on CNN now? They want to sell. Jim Acosta, we'll just say reassigned. I won't say fired. What else is going on? They canceled the airport. CNN airport is gone as of March. I think they realized that the only thing that kept them floating was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was truly a glorious past 4 years of unhinged desperation, screaming at the top of their lungs about Trump nonstop. That's what happens. You open up CNN, you turn on CNN. It's just everyone screaming and Trump. Without him, I think they're going to try the Trumpism angle. Trumpism.
They are.
The problem is they've already banned all these people. Twitter purged the QAnon people. What are they going to complain about? So I think you're right, Luke. They're going to start looking. So here's what happens. They get rid of the right. What's left? Moderates. When the moderates are gone, liberals. And then there's going to be eating each other like it's an Ouroboros, and then
From my kind of understanding, I do see elements of the far left getting attacked first because they're the most vocal ones, but the institutional power is amongst the corporatists, the sellouts, the establishment. So I think right after the moderates, it's definitely going to be the farther left, the kind of I don't even want to say AOC because she's more establishment now than anything else, but anyone kind of representing these ideas, I think it's going to get the boot. But another interesting factor to really kind of remember here is that before Donald Trump was president, the mainstream media ratings, their viewership was tanking, going down. And there's a legitimate argument to make that Donald Trump saved the mainstream media.
Fact.
Saved CNN, saved all these national media organizations that actually were going out of work because people were saying, I'd rather go on the internet and watch people that look like me, that talk like me, that are actually genuine and not represented by these bigger, larger interests that just spew talking points and narratives at me for their political goal.
He raised them as like undead. They were dying. He's like, I won't let you fully die.
I like to imagine Jeff Zucker at CNN right now is like, he's turning the lights off. He's like, pulling on his shirt and straightening his tie and looking at the studio as everyone leaves and the doors close. And then he walks up to this giant golden statue of Donald Trump. Tear comes in his eye and he wipes and he goes, thank you. Thank you.
I think that it probably won't happen, but I was imagining that the news media
probably
would start to go after Biden. If Biden does something really stupid, because they want to put Kamala in office.
Okay.
So they'll wait until Biden pulls the trigger on too many drone bombs or the economy tanks and they can all put it on Biden. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, not the drone thing, dude. They will never criticize a president for war.
They cheered on Donald Trump when he
used to go after Bush, though, pretty hard.
Yeah, he's a Republican. They're not going to. Obama, how many people? Obama killed Americans.
Yeah.
Obama literally was like, it's an American, blow him up.
teenage American citizens were assassinated by the direct.
More than one teenager. It was one teenager.
I don't know the exact.
I think
There's
Obama killed. I think it's 4 Americans, but specifically I can name 2 of them: Anwar al-Awlaki and Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. It's a 16-year-old American kid who was he was from. I think he was from Colorado. He was
Colorado. He was trying to
that
find out
lived
who
in
his
San
father
Diego.
was.
And then he went and traveled to Yemen, and Obama ordered a drone strike on a civilian cafe in a country we're not at war with Yemen.
And
he
then
blew up a civilian restaurant, killing an American citizen. And the media is like, oops. Or I'm sorry. The media went to Obama, and he went, it was a mistake. And they were like, good enough for us. Pack it in, boys. We got an answer.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
And then Donald Trump ordered the hit, I believe, on the sister. And then, again, we didn't hear anything about it.
I know.
And then, when Donald Trump becomes very aggressive with his military, the mainstream media cheers him on. They applaud him. They say it's beautiful. It's great. He's showing the leadership. So they're not going to do that.
But hold on. But I do think you have a good point, Ian. They'll find something else as an excuse because they want Kamala.
They might, yeah.
But I don't think so.
But like 2 or 3 years in.
I think there's maybe a reason. Like maybe now what'll happen is I think Marjorie Taylor Greene says she wants to impeach Biden on day 1.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll go, oh no, geez. I guess we'll have to impeach and convict. Bye, Biden. Kamala, yay. There we go. And
yeah,
then,
that's not.
no, right. But I mean, I can't imagine Joe Biden finishing out his term for any reason. Because primarily, I mean, first of all, he's an old guy. But not even just that. They wanted Kamala. I really do think they were trying to prop up Kamala until Tulsi Gabbard dropped that nuke. And it really, really was damaging and hard to get around. And so then she just disappears. Then Joe Biden all of a sudden becomes the front runner, and then he picks Kamala.
I don't know. We heard the same exact thing about Donald Trump. He's not going to last the 4 years. He didn't even want it. He's definitely not going to run for re-election. Biden will make it the 4 year unless there's some health issue that we don't know about. He might. He's almost certainly not going to be the external president.
Yeah.
That people might want, or maybe they don't want that. Why
What do you
did
mean?
so many external being out there, being public facing, doing a whole bunch of speeches? My sense is he probably is not going to be that president after the first year. I think they've noted the cognitive decline, and that's not me dissing him. He's of age where that happens.
I think he's going to be in a wheelchair. They're going to roll him into the sunroom with a little blanket on his lap, and he's just going to snore away in the sun.
Nah.
Well, look, if that happens, though, the whole point of Joe Biden was to get a calming force in the White House who can then make it easier for a Democrat the next time around. I think it's a bad strategy if they think it's going to be Kamala Harris, and I think you're right. I think they intended it to be, and she did not perform nearly as well as she was supposed to.
Let me ask you something. Why? Who is this political consultant that keeps telling people like Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris to laugh inappropriately and randomly?
Well, and especially if you have the most irritating and grating laugh.
I know.
God bless them. But, it really is. There are some people who just have really unorganic laugh because it's fake.
Yeah.
And when it's fake, it's really, really grating. So just stop it. Just tell them to be like normal human beings. And you would have thought that they would have picked that up with Hillary Clinton, who came off as presidential if you took away all the phony nonsense that
cackling.
I honestly just don't understand that.
It was like you've got the worst stereotype in the world. Let's have Hillary Clinton cackle all the time.
Yeah.
Calm
it
down.
Was the Botox too. In like 2006, she wasn't all Botoxed up, and then all of a sudden she just got all face jacked, and then started.
It's the equivalent.
Too.
So because I think they did it with Sarah Palin too, which is like really lean into the small town mayor thing and use all these isms and it came off as a little bit too phony.
Yep.
Whereas Joe Biden, regardless of what you think about his policies, as a personality, he's likable. He has a likable personality. Yeah. I don't trust it, but it's a likable personality.
You're saying you didn't like Hillary Clinton, who had hot sauce in her bag when asked about it on a popular hip-hop radio show? That didn't work for you?
Or Kamala Harris, who somehow managed to listen to rap before it came out.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Or Andrew
Time
Yang
travelers.
today, who was at an exquisite, beautiful store talking about how he loves the bodegas, who left his bananas behind. I don't know if you've seen that cringy Andrew Yang video today.
No.
He left his bananas on the table. He bought them. He left them there. He couldn't even peel one. And then he's like, yes, guys. And he was in the most like amazing, glorious store that you could ever imagine. He's like, this is a bodega. It wasn't a bodega.
What's funny about the Andrew Yang running for mayor thing is that his big campaign, policy has always been universal basic income. And now he's proposing what I think may be the worst iteration of it, which is it's like $500,000 for low-income people in New York, which, I'm sorry, I know it's cliche, but would just incentivize people to not work. Because what happens when you do things like this is someone could be on the threshold and say, I better work a couple less hours, otherwise I'll get kicked off these benefits. If that's, I'm giving a generalization to what his plan is, but more importantly, he's been criticized because, theoretically, the plan could work at the federal level because the Fed can print and borrow money. New York can't. New York needs revenue. So where are you going to get this money to just start giving out to New Yorkers?
Especially as the rich folks are fleeing.
Yes.
Right.
Well, they might be bailed out by Biden's new $1.9 trillion plan that he's putting forward, where he talks about giving tens of billions of dollars to states who are in need. New York City has been in need before COVID because of their overspending. Now that problem is exacerbated to 20-fold, 100-fold because, again, as you said, all the people with means are leaving. The people who can't leave are stuck there, and they're literally talking about changing all the office buildings into apartment buildings. So who's going to want to live in a place where there's no jobs, there's nowhere to work, and you have the highest taxes in nearly all of the United States?
Joe Biden's plan, as part of his new $1.9 trillion, is an increase of the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. So across the board, everywhere. You could be in the Oklahoma Panhandle and make very little money. Well, good news, $15 an hour for everybody.
All businesses have it. I mean, they all have that money just on standby.
Yeah, of course.
They're just hanging on to it because they're greedy.
Right, exactly. It's leftists totally get this, that all businesses everywhere at any given moment have millions of dollars just sitting in a bank account, and that, well, they're like dragons sitting atop their pile of gold. They just don't want to give it to anybody.
Especially in rural America, I'm told.
Right. So what we need is a valiant knight like Joe Biden to force those dragons to give up the gold to the townspeople. Problem solved.
Is this for waiters too that are making $2.13 an hour?
They're getting rid of, or they want to get rid of that wage tip, lower minimum wage, which, because we did this in Seattle and we had these conversations, you would be hard pressed to find a person who worked at a restaurant who wanted that idea. No one wanted that. They were like, we make so much more money under this current system. And they ended up getting screwed.
I'm down for not having to tip anymore.
So that plan went through, and what were the effects of it?
So we're still learning the long-term effects because this wasn't that long ago. But one thing that we definitely saw happening was hours were getting cut because they were almost hitting that threshold where they were no longer able to get subsidies. But if they were to get off those subsidies, because they're now making $15 an hour, now it's like 16 and 20-something cents, it's still not enough to live in Seattle. While at the exact same time, you have the Seattle City Council and the mayor's office constantly changing a whole bunch of different programs, increasing taxes, making it harder to build homes and apartments. And so the cost of living continues to go up. So it's ludicrous. They just ended up changing the way that Uber the rideshare model. So now you have to guarantee that they're making a minimum wage on top of all these new benefits, which Uber came out and said, okay, but as of right now, we're now 25% more expensive to the customers. By April, we expect it to be 40%. And so far, they're sticking. It's way more expensive.
Well, that's good, though, because the cab drivers don't like Uber.
Yeah, well, that's really what this is about. But all the drivers were like, oh, this is great. We're going to make so much more money. Not if people don't take the Uber.
Right.
And if they do take the Uber, it's because they can now afford to take the Uber, which means your city is not appealing to the diversity of a socioeconomic backgrounds. You're now, again, catering to people who can't afford to live in Seattle, which is the exact opposite of what you said you wanted to do.
I got to point out the dark truth about the restaurant industry. Waiters that make $3 an hour will subsist off of cash tips that they don't declare and don't pay taxes on. The restaurant also does not have to declare it or pay taxes on it. That's existed since probably the beginning of time.
They love it.
If they want to change that and start forcing them to take salaries or huge minimum wages and then no tips, it's going to destroy the restaurant industry. I know the IRS probably doesn't like to hear that, IRS, but that's the way the restaurant industry works. They get cash chips, they don't declare them.
I don't think it'll destroy the restaurant industry, but I do think all current wait staff will get a very large red pill shoved down their throat when they're like, my income just dropped by 60-something%.
And the restaurant will have to fire them because they can't front that money. It's tip money that they don't have to pay.
No. They'll increase the prices.
Yeah.
And then the
and
wait
then people
staff
won't come in, and then they won't be able to pay enough waiters. Then they'll have to cut back on their waiters. Then they won't have enough servers to serve the food. Their service will decline. People will stop coming in. It's just a downward spiral.
It's kind of funny how the politicians who promise to help the poor people the most are actually creating the most amount of poor people and serving and catering the super rich.
Have you? I think you've seen this video, Luke. But there's a viral video. There's a video game. It's called, I forgot what it's called, City State 2 maybe. And so there's this guy. He plays the games. He makes YouTube videos of his games, and then he publishes them. Well, there was a really funny moment where he decided to create a city state that had no laws. And he was like, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be murder and poverty. And so he was like, no regulations, free market everything, no taxes, no support, no police. And then as he progresses through the game, there's zero poverty. Every building is becoming a luxury high-rise, and he's laughing. He's like, what's happening? Everybody's rich. There's no protest. There's no poverty. There's no crime. Why is this? And then a bunch of libertarians and ANCAPs and conservatives started sharing the video, and they were like, progressive tries making an anarcho-capitalist dystopia turns into a utopia. So I'm not saying the video game is a perfect model for the real world, but I do think it is important to point out sometimes, actually, kind of a lot of the time, the government tries to step in thinking they're smart enough as a committee to alter the economy of an entire city of millions of people, and that it's going to work. I'm sorry, man. Look, I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist by any means. I'm actually kind of left on economic policy. But I can be the first to tell you a decentralized network is going to be smarter and better at solving problems than a committee, than a small group of people who can't see the entire problem for what it is.
Well, especially when you're in these cities where it's kind of one-party rule. I mean, and that's the same for conservatives. I imagine that if you had a large urban city and it was only run by conservatives, you're running into the same problems. I do think you need the person to tell you why they think you're wrong. Even if you ignore them the entire time, it does start getting into your head, and you do start to question some of your own moves. And I do think that ultimately leads to better decisions. But we've got so many cities from New York and Seattle and Portland and Minneapolis where that just does not exist. And we've seen the consequences of city halls run that way.
I mean, they're just unaccountable one-party rule districts that, of course, we have to understand are laying the blueprints of what most likely will happen on a federal level with, of course, the federal government. When we're talking about Democrats' control of the Senate, the Congress, the executive office, we're seeing something that really is going to truly shape the future of this country. And now Biden's going to be bailing out all of the horrible mistakes, all the horrible decisions that they made. So there's no incentive for them to actually face reality and the consequences of their horrible actions, because Biden's just going to come in and bail everyone out. And who's going to pay for that? The people who didn't make the bad mistakes. The people who conserved their money, saved their money, are now going to have to pay more taxes and deal with more bullcrap because of other people's mistakes.
I'm gonna say the naughty words. Civil war. And the reason why is what we're seeing right now appears to be a political civil war every 4 years. And it's been increasingly getting worse. 2016 was insane. Trump wins. They scream Russia at the top of their lungs, banging their heads on the wall. Rachel Maddow is, screaming. Chris Hayes. So Jonathan Chait goes on MSNBC and says Trump may have been an asset of the Russians since the 80s when they were part of the Soviet Union. It's just psychotic nonsense. Impeachment, investigations for years. See, what happens is they use every political maneuver and every legal maneuver they have to try and destroy the other side. Now what's happening? We got Marjorie Taylor Greene on day one. She will file articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. The Democrats are now taking control of the federal government in terms of the Senate and the House. The Senate, the House, and the executive branch. And then they're going to enact laws that large portions of the country does not want. The divide between the cultures of how people want to live are so dramatically different that when you get Democrats in office, they're gonna what these policies Joe Biden's proposing, especially gun control, for instance. It makes no sense to raise the minimum wage in rural Oklahoma and ban them from buying guns when they live in the middle of nowhere. Why should the law for New York City be the same as this place? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. That's why we have the system we have. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., so come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.